Committee of Commerce and Labor to order. Clerk, if you'd open the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I want to thank the members for being here on time. Delegate Marshall, you're first with House Bill 1840.
Thank you, sir. I think we have an amendment that maybe Frank, hopefully Frank, somebody has.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 908, after utility, strike as of and insert after, so that the line would read the costs incurred by the pilot utility after January 1st, 2019.
Okay, is there a motion on that
There's
amendment?
another amendment also offered by the EDP.
Okay, is there a motion on that amendment? Been moved and seconded that the amendment be adopted. All those in favor say aye. That takes care of that amendment. Is there a second amendment?
There is a second, there's always a second amendment.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought you had that.
Mr. Chairman, I can report the second amendment on line 915. It might be easier just to read the new language and strike most of the existing language is being deleted. It will read, "The role of the Virginia Economic Development Partnership in conducting the pilot program is to certify that up to 3 petitions within the certificated service territory of each pilot utility addresses the eligibility criteria for participation in the pilot program set forth in section 56576 and this second enactment, period."
Okay, is there a motion on that amendment? This is part of the enactment clauses. Do I hear a motion? All right, it's been moved and seconded that amendment be adopted. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, that amendment. All right, Delegate Marshall, we got it in the proper form. Why don't you tell us what it does?
All right, so first of all, this is a pilot project, and this bill directs the Virginia Economic Development Partnership to establish a pilot program to promote economic development in rural areas of the Commonwealth by allowing electric utilities to complete the construction phase of electric transmission infrastructure for a business park prior to a public announcement of a prospective occupant of the business park. The qualifying business park must be located in a designated opportunity zone, must be a business-ready site program, a Tier 4 site, be revenue shared by 2 or more localities, and localities must make investments in siting, environmental reviews, right of acquisition, and pre-engineering design prior to the announced history. And each project must be at least 7 miles long. So there will be 3 sites in AEP series, 3 sites in Dominions, and 3 sites in the co-op site.
Okay, my understanding is similar to the right-of-ways access for all utilities to potential mega sites, but a little bit different now that we're talking about transmission lines and not
This is just for
distribution lines.
transmission lines.
Just for transmission lines. Okay, are there questions for the patron?
Mr. President.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, jeez. Danny, years ago, I put in a bill that would allow then, in order to speed up the transmission lines and bringing power to these mega sites, the ability for AEP, Dominion, whomever, to deal directly with the Board of Supervisors rather than have to go through the SEC. Is that the same? Does this buttonhole in there with that?
So can I phone a friend?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. Here's my
Okay.
friend.
I mean, the whole point, Danny, was
Delegate
to
Marshall
expedite.
needs some backup. Hang on a minute.
Oh,
right.
can you substitute a friend? I mean, Ron, you remember the law, the bill
Mr.
that's
Chairman,
law?
Ron Jefferson,
Yeah.
Appalachian Power. Yes, that was the 138 kV line, and absolutely, it gave us the opportunity to start working with localities, and that's how we managed to get where we are today with these projects.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah. Senator Stanley.
so this button's in with that, so that would still allow the speed in which we can do this faster when you get a prospect or you get actually a tenant who's going to bring in there, because you're not going to bring power in there unless you've got somebody to hook it up to, right?
Mr. Chairman, that it does speed the process up. It does allow the utility to go ahead and make those investments now to get the infrastructure to these sites so that we can compete with other states like North Carolina to the south of us that do this very thing.
Okay, I think Senator Newman has a question.
Mr. Chairman, or-
Don't go anywhere, Ron. Apparently.
Danny,
Gentlemen.
Yes.
just the word transmission is not a word with 138 I'm used to. So what is the voltage we're talking about?
So it's not just 138. That's what I think Senator Stanley had. This doesn't designate 138 because I think Dominion has larger than 138. Yes, regional.
So, yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
Just-
Senator Newman.
I still like it. I'm just asking, right? So we're talking about, well, what are we talking about? Are we talking about 230? Are we talking about 161? Or what, Rod, what are we talking about? Because you're only looking to get power to the site, not anything more, right? And so how much power are we talking, I guess?
Mr. Chairman, for Appalachian Power, it'd be 138. That's what now I have to ask for a Dominion representative to come up to talk about what their voltage is. But for Appalachian Power, it is 138.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Senator Black.
Is it my understanding that this bill only applies to economically impacted, economically distressed areas?
That's correct, Senator Black.
Yes, it is limited, the distance that you can run this power is limited to 10 miles,
It's actually 7 miles, but
is it 7 miles?
yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, is there anyone opposed to this legislation? Seeing none, the committee operates by minutes. It's been moved and seconded that the bill as amended be reported. Clerk, open the rolls.
12 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank
Okay,
you.
that bill's reported. Thank you, Delegate
thank you.
Marshall. Delegate O'Quinn. You have Senate Bill 2691.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
And you have two bills.
Yes,
Mucked
sir.
up our docket. Okay, go ahead.
Pardon me. 2691 first?
Yes, please.
All right. I think we have a multitude of short amendments to make to this particular bill, Mr.
A
Chairman.
multitude of short amendments, okay?
Yes, sir.
Does the clerk want to report those amendments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first is on page 1, line 15. After by broadband, insert any such petitions that a Phase 1 utility submits shall not exceed $60 million in costs annually. The second is on page 1, line 21, after section 56, 585.1, insert filed on or after July 1st, 2020. The third is on line 27, after lease, strike irrevocable and insert indefeasible. The fourth is on page 1, line 36, after submitted, strike such proceedings shall be governed by the provisions of Chapter 10, Section 56, 232 et sec, except as modified herein. Number 5 is on line 52, after by, strike regulation, insert guideline. And the last is the same amendment on line 55, after by, strike regulation and insert guideline.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion on those amendments? Been moved and seconded, those amendments be adopted. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the bill's before us.
All right,
Delegate
thank you,
O'Quinn.
Mr. Chairman. So House Bill 2691 is a Section 1 bill. It stems from the Grid Modernization and Security Act last year. And if you recall, there was going to be fiber that was strung between electric transmission stations. And so it was determined it would be really no more difficult to pull up 140-strand fiber, for instance, than maybe a 12-strand fiber. And so we could use that dark fiber to be able to get broadband into underserved or unserved areas. And so this basically creates a pilot program for Phase 1 and/or Phase 2 utilities to be able to submit a program to the State Corporation Commission for consideration that will hopefully help us get broadband into some of the areas that have been extremely difficult to get it into before.
Okay, the questions for the patron. I hear a question.
Down here. Mr.
Senator
Chairman,
McDougal.
can you tell me where the designated areas with 10% of the residential and commercial units? Because I guess there's, Mr. Chairman, I guess there's a map of that somewhere.
Yeah, and with the, let's see here, my version is all messed up after the, after all the changes.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I can ask it a different way.
Evan, yeah, okay, you've got the expert here.
The question, I can direct my question. Does it include the northern neck from King, Georgetown, and Lancaster? And does it include
yeah.
Caroline, Essex, Middlesex?
Why didn't you just ask that question before?
All right,
Mr. Chairman.
Let's get a handle on
in all
this.
seriousness-
Senator McDougal.
In all seriousness, if it doesn't, it will by the time it finishes the process. So I just want to make sure it does.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Senator, there's not the mapping challenge has been an issue in the provision of broadband services and in the public policy around broadband for a while. The fact is, from the perspective of the private sector providers, their maps are proprietary trade secrets, and so they don't share them. That said, we know in a general sense, if not down to the GIS location, where there is and there isn't service. I can assure you that the Northern Neck would benefit from this program. Similarly, when you talk about where we don't have good, high-quality broadband, it's outside of our city business centers, outside of even our small-town business districts, in the northern Piedmont, the Valley, the Ridgelines, most of Southwest, much of Southside, and much of the Eastern Shore and peninsulas.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator McDougal.
If you can get me something showing which jurisdictions east of, well, in my area of the world are included in this before we move through this process tomorrow, I would be greatly appreciated.
I can get you the best maps we've got and a little language to further describe how your district would be impacted.
Okay. Any other questions? All righty, is there anyone opposed to this legislation? Seeing none, committee operates by motion. Been moved and, it needs to be moved and reported to finance. Been moved and seconded that the bill be reported and re-referred to Committee of Finance. Clerk, open the rolls.
13 ayes, 1 nay.
Okay, that bill's reported. Okay, Delegate O'Quinn, 2789.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. So this particular bill directs both APCO and Dominion to submit a 3-year program to the State Corporation Commission to provide low-income, elderly, and disabled customers with energy efficiency and solar. The $25 million that you see in incentives for energy efficiency would count towards the utility's obligation to provide spending on energy efficiency programs. The $25 million in incentives for solar equipment would not count against that cap. So that's essentially the bill in a nutshell.
Okay, the questions for the patron.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Sproul.
After the 3-year program is up, what happens to the rates for low income and the elderly and disabled? What happened after 3 years?
Mr. Chairman, you probably
Delegate
have
O'Quinn.
someone here from the State
I think
Corporation
you got
Commission.
some backup coming. Is there someone from the, Catherine? You want to answer Senator Sproul's question?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and Senator Sproul, I think your question was after the 3 years, what
Yes.
happens?
Yes.
So those customers who will have received energy efficiency and solar will still have those installations. The question is whether or not any additional customers would receive those same services beyond the 3-year period.
But the one that we're talking about, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Sproul.
I'm talking about the one that is 3 years now. So they will continue to have that.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Sproul, the answer to your question is yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Senator Sasslaw.
So, it says, in the title, it says, provides incentives for the development of electric energy delivered from sunlight. You want to explain that?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Senator Saslaw, the idea is that we would be able to undertake a pilot program for the first time to provide customers who fall into the categories described by the patron to receive both energy efficiency and solar, because those two things have never been coupled together in a program offered by the utilities.
And it's this.
Senator Saslaw.
Mr. Chairman, the development of that solar would count towards that 5,000 megawatts.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Saslaw, that is correct.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions? Okay. I think the committee understands the bill. Is there a motion on the bill?
Move the report.
It's been moved and seconded that we report the bill and re-refer to Committee of Finance?
Yes.
Yep, okay. Oh, it doesn't have to go? Okay, all right. Just move and report. Okay, clerk, open the rolls.
So it's inside the 5,000 we've already authorized.
Yeah, it just adds to it, yeah. No. As they do it, it counts again.
11 ayes, 2 nays.
Okay. All right, 11 ayes, 2 nays. That bill's reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Delegate Wilt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. House Bill 2723 allows for an insurer or vendor of portable electronics insurance to communicate notices and correspondence by mail or electronic means to the person who actually bought the electronic device, providing that the consumer, gives their email address, and that would serve as consent to receive the correspondences by email, electronically.
Okay, the questions for the patron.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Black.
Okay, and so just so that I can be absolutely clear, this only takes place after the customer has entered into an agreement with the seller of the product. In other words, seller of the product says, we want to give you, we'd like to sell you a contract of insurance. The customer says, yes, I'll take it. And that is the point at which, from that point forward, you use the electronic messages, but not, the person doesn't just find himself under an insurance contract by virtue of the the electronic messages. In other words, he doesn't just stumble into becoming an insured person accidentally.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd say, there on the last line, that long as that disclosure is in effect provided to customer within 30 days following the purchase of the electronics insurance. But yeah, it's.
So in other words, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator Black.
So this is just the sort of the upkeep messages, the alterations and notices and different things, but not the establishment of the original insurance contract.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Senator Black, does that complete your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay, all right. Senator Cosgrove.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to reluctantly support the bill, but here's the reason why. I have a MasterCard, and somehow we got some electronic communication from them about something. And now all of a sudden, they by default are sending the statements to email, my email. Half the time they end up in spam. We don't get any statement. And I've called them 3 months in a row, say, hey, we never authorized this. So I guess the question is that same kind of thing going to happen to other people with this, as far as insurance goes? Because we're pretty upset about that.
Yes. My turn to phone a friend, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Matt Benedetti representing Assurion. We are the provider of the insurance for portable electronics insurance. Senator Cosgrove, the billing is taken care of by the carrier, the mobile carrier. Once the decision is made by the customer that they provide the email that they want the insurance, it's all handled through the cell phone bill. So signing up for an email on this particular program is just for notification purposes after the purchase. So if there's a change to the policy required by law to make a notification, it's done via email versus paper.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Does that complete the questions?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Committee operates by motion.
Mr. Chairman, question first.
Up, Senator Sproul.
What happens if customers don't have emails?
Mr. Chairman, then that customer would continue to get a paper notification.
Okay, all right. All right, it's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported. Clerk, open the rolls.
Thirteen ayes, 1 nay.
Okay, that bill's reported. All right,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee
Delegate
members.
Davis.
Yes, sir. House Bill 2126, and Mr. Chairman, there are 2 amendments.
Okay. Clerk, if you would report the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 74, after is, strike stable and insert currently receiving a positive therapeutic outcome. And the second is on line 75, after or, strike previous and insert the immediately preceding.
Okay, Delegate Davis.
Yes, sir, and
Oh, wait a
Mr.
minute, is there a motion on those amendments? Been moved and seconded that those amendments be adopted. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay,
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, so the form the bill is in today is kind of a piece in the valley amongst all the carriers and patient advocacy groups, but the Bureau of Insurance came up earlier today and asked if there could be a quick amendment to line 84, and if I may ask for that amendment, and then I'll go over all of it together, Mr. Chairman.
okay, there's another amendment.
One more, yes, sir. Line 84, if we could please insert request denial after the word exception on line 84.
Okay. Staff, you got that? You don't have that on line 84?
Yeah, after exception, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Staff, you got that amendment? Got it? Okay. So a motion on that amendment. Been moved and seconded that amendment be adopted. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, Delegate Davis.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, this has been a 4-year process, working with all the stakeholders to come to an agreement on the process by which an insurance company is allowed to override your doctor's treatment when loved one comes down with a serious illness, whether it be cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, or many of other things. It does not get rid of step therapy. What it does is provides transparency and reasonableness. What you'll notice is if you look at lines 42 down to 64, those are the parts that provide transparency. It just speaks to that the formulary committee will ensure that there's no conflicts of interest there. It ensures that the carriers are looking at the newest research that is out there. And then if you go down to lines 68 through 76, those are the lines that talk about when a step therapy exemption shall be granted. Things like if you've already been through step therapy, you've taken certain drugs that were contraindicated or did not work, just because you change insurance providers, you can't be forced to take those drugs over again. Those are the types of things. It's been a 4-year process working with the carriers. I think you'll hear in a second that all the carriers are comfortable with this and supportive. All the patient advocacy groups are comfortable and supportive, and hopefully you will be as well today, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All righty. I think we understand the bill. Is there anyone opposed to this legislation? Done a hell of a job, Delegate Davis. That's unbelievable. Okay. All right, the appropriate motion is to the appropriate motion is to report and re-refer to finance. Oh, wait a minute.
Let him speak.
I
Let him
just
speak.
he couldn't resist.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I wanted to thank the patron for working with us. This reflects the best practices in step therapy of our companies, and we want to live up to our best practices, so we're willing to support this bill, and thank him for his efforts.
Okay. All right, the motion is to report and re-refer to finance. Clerk, open the rolls. Still voting for you.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, that bill's reported. Okay, Delegate Keem.
Mr. Chair, members, I have House Bill 2332, and I'm going to start with a substitute if I can. Mr. Munyon has a...
Okay, so motion on a substitute. Been moved and seconded, the substitute be adopted. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the substitute's before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. This is an issue that you have not seen before because we only had the House version of this bill. And the bill, as you have in front of you, is more streamlined and more efficient than the version that I introduced. Let me just tell you very briefly what we're trying to solve here. And the good news is everybody here is on a consensus that this language strikes the balance with what we want to do. So everybody from our friends in the utilities to our Poverty Law Center are all on the board. I don't know what Doug Gray's views on this, but hopefully he doesn't have a view on this. But other than that, I think we have peace in the valley. Mr. Chairman, this is an issue that we are dealing with now as technology is evolving, and we see more and more opportunities for companies to dig into the data of consumers to understand what is happening.
Let's hold it down.
Sure.
Go on, Delegate Keem.
Sure. With our utilities having more access to data about our energy uses and consumers' behavior, what we want to do is come up with some guidelines that the SEC can have to say, these are areas where the consumer should have some rights. These are areas where the industry and the companies should be able to innovate using the data that they have. So this is basically a stakeholder group that the State Corporation Commission will do to come up with some ideas so that by next year, when we have some possibility of regulation or legislation, we'll have some data that we have in front of us. So it's essentially a stakeholder group that we're convening. And we'd be happy to have our friends from the utilities, from co-ops, from the consumer groups all speak, but we've worked with them closely throughout the last couple of months to get to where we are.
So as I understand it, Delegate Keem, what we have here is the technology's advancing, net metering, the amount of communications back and forth between those with meters and the utility, and how are we going to protect privacy?
Yes, sir. Yeah, especially the advanced metering.
Just trying to get a handle on it, see what we need to do. Yes, okay, are there any questions for the patron? Is anyone opposed to this legislation? Been moved and seconded that the amendment in nature substitute to House Bill 2332 be reported. Clerk, open the rolls.
Thirteen ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, that bill's reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There's one last bill in front of the committee. I'm sorry it's not on the docket, but it was just introduced with unanimous consent, and I want to thank everybody on the committee for doing that. And I have the bill in front of you. It's Senate Bill 1789, and I'm going to turn the committee over to Senator Newman. 1799? 1790, okay.
Senate Bill 1790, and
We don't have a copy of it.
do you have your computer, or do we need to?
I don't use a computer, I'm old school.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I have an identical bill here if anyone else needs a copy. But this, if you've been on Finance Committee, we discussed this same bill, 1788, and again, I apologize. This originally started as Delegate Knight's bill. When it came over here, it got lost in the shuffle and all the bills in front of Finance. And Finance has acted on it, but it never got reported, which is why we have to run this bill through. What the bill does, Mr. Chairman, is allow for a certain percentage of the sales tax collected from a new project being proposed in the city of Virginia Beach to be used to pay the bonds that the city of Virginia Beach wishes to do on the bonds. This is not something unusual. We've done that for a number of arenas and stadiums and other public venues around the Commonwealth, and this is that. Nothing will happen to the normal sales tax collections for transportation localities, and those will go unencumbered. It produces that. So I believe there's someone from the city of Virginia Beach, if you'd like to know a little bit more about the project.
Great, thank you, Senator.
But that's what the bill does.
Are there those that are here to speak in favor of the bill? Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Bob Mathias from the city of Virginia Beach. About 5 or 6 years ago, the city got authority to build a arena at Virginia Beach. The deal didn't go forward. We got this authority to help finance that arena at that time. We're basically moving that authority over to this new site. For those of you familiar with Virginia Beach, this will be development on the Dome site. For about the last 20 years, the Dome site's been a parking lot, not generating any money for anyone. This will be a new $325 million development. It'll include a wave park, something new to Virginia, in fact, something new to the East Coast. It's being backed by Pharrell and some Class A developers from Virginia Beach. It'll be generating about 2,500 jobs when it gets created. That'll be new revenue for the Commonwealth. And so this revenue that Senator Wagner is talking about is basically but-for revenue, doesn't exist now, but it will help us pay the debt service on this project. It's a really great project, and we hope you can support it.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you for coming. Senator Spruill.
I read a little bit. This won't cost Chesapeake enough, not one dime, right?
Not one dime, sir. In fact, we'll be generating income tax for the entire Commonwealth in these 2,500 full-time jobs.
Move the report.
All right, are there others?
Mr. Chairman,
Are there others? Senator Cosgrove?
I'd just like to respond to Senator Sproul, that if you go down there for an event, it's going to take you some of your money, but it won't cost Chesapeake anything.
All right, are there those others that are here to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone that has some concerns about the bill? Any discussion among the members?
Move the report.
There's a motion and a second to report the bill, that being 1790. All those in favor will record your votes aye. Those opposed, no. Wagner, you can vote. And the clerk will close the roll.
12 ayes, 0 nays.
12-0, the bill is reported.
Docket? It does, okay. Committee will rise except for those on finance. Remain seated.